Hello everyone, welcome to this session on GitHub Workflow tutorial. Today in this session, we will go through what is a Git workflow and we will also understand what is a GitHub workflow and then we'll continue with the session. All right. So guys, this is what we are going to cover in this session. Let's first go ahead and understand the different kind of Git workflows which are out there. Now, to just give you a perspective, Git workflow is nothing but a way to work with Git, right? As the number of people in your team increases, you basically have to follow a certain process in order to achieve the desired results in your, in your development project. Now, there are different workflows for different use cases. Let's discuss the first use case, which is basically called the centralized workflow. Now, we will be discussing three workflows today, guys: the centralized workflow, the feature branching workflow, and the Git flow workflow. So, what is centralized? What is feature branching? What is Git flow workflow? Let's go ahead and understand it by one and one. So, let's first understand what is centralized workflow. So guys, centralized workflow is basically used when you have a very small number of people in your team, right? So this particular workflow does not require any other branch other than the master and anyone who's working in this project. What they basically do is they directly commit on the master, right? Now, what is this workflow suitable for, or which scenarios is this workflow suitable for? This scenario is basically suitable for teams wherein the people who are developing on the project probably are founders or probably are people who know what they are doing, right? If you are a manager among these team members, this is not at all recommended. So ideally, this scenario should be followed when you are creating a project which is probably a prototype, right? And all these people are basically the main contributors to this development project, right? So only in that case you should basically commit directly to the master, because in this case a code review probably will not be that much possible. If somebody has to review the code, they basically will be doing it on the master itself, right? It can also be for scenarios where probably the master branch is not connected via CI/CD pipelines to your production service. So even in that case, it might be suitable, right? Or it might be suitable for cases where probably only one developer is working and he knows what he is doing. So he is always uploading the code to GitHub or to Git when he knows that everything is verified and everything is working perfectly fine. So this is about the centralized workflow. What I'll also do is I'll just open up my terminal so that understanding becomes a little more easier. And what I'll do is let me head over to desktop and let me create a directory called practice hyphen git, and let's go inside this directory. Okay, so let's create a directory for centralized workflow. So in this, what is going to happen is we're first going to go ahead and initialize Git. So the command is git init. Let's hit that. And once we hit the git init command, Git will be initialized in this particular directory. And now what we can do is we can basically go ahead and create a first file. Let's call it as main. And inside main, let's enter some text. So let's enter hello world. And when we do that, when we basically stage this file, we commit it. So git add space dot git commit. This is going to be my first commit, right? So now if I look at the git log, you can see I have committed directly to the master. So obviously the first commit has to be on the master, but this is at all what is going to be in this git repository, right? There will be no more branches in this git repository. It is only going to be the master branch, and anybody who is going to work on this is basically going to directly commit on the master. That's how this repository is going to work. However, if you move forward, there is another workflow, with a standard workflow which is followed in industries, which is basically called the feature branching workflow. Now, what is the feature branching workflow? So feature branching workflow basically deals with uh, creating multiple feature branches and then there will be a master branch where the main code resides. Now, what does this mean? So this is basically used in scenarios when you have a team of developers, probably multiple people in the team, right? And you as a manager, you want to review all the code which is being merged on the master, right? And you consider master as the code which is production ready. So in this case, since you have a team of developers, what you do is you assign each developer with a certain feature that they have to develop, and each developer will work on that feature in their own feature branch, right? To put it into perspective, let me just move on to the terminal. So let's say we create a new directory. Let's call this directory as feature. So let me just create a directory called feature. Let's go inside this directory. Let's initialize a Git repository over here. Let's create a main file. Let's edit this main file, and let's hide hello world to master. This is the main file. Let's stage it, commit it. Okay, I think we did some mistake over here. So I had to go inside the feature directory, and I didn't. So let's go inside the feature directory, and let's now go ahead and initialize a Git repo. Done. And now let's create a main file. Let's go inside this main file and edit it. Let's say it's hello world to master. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stage this file. I'm going to commit it. And this is going to be our first commit on the master, right? Let's consider this as our main commit. So the first commit will always be on the master, guys. Now, as a manager, what I do is I hire a bunch of developers. And what I do is, let's say there are 3 developers. So I will create 3 branches. So Git branch feature 1, Git branch feature 2, and Git branch feature 3. Okay. So now what is going to happen is in this particular workflow, there will also be something called as a develop branch, right? So now if you look at the branches, these are the number of branches that we have: feature 1, feature 2, and feature 3. So now what will happen is the developer 1, if I assign him feature 1, so he will now work in the feature 1 branch. Developer 2 will work in the feature 2 branch. Developer 3 will work in the feature 3 branch. Now, when this happens, let's simulate this scenario. How will it work? So let's check out on feature 1. So let's say I am developer 1, and what I do is I create the feature 1 file for my code. And let's say this is the code for feature 1 assigned to developer 1. Okay. And we'll stage this, we'll commit this. Now you will notice this is being added to the feature 1 branch. And if I check the logs as well, you can see that this is the commit that we just did, right? Feature 1 added, and this has been added to the feature 1 branch. So if I do an ls, you can see feature 1 is here, the main file is here. But if you basically go to the master, you will not find the files over there. So you just have the main file. You don't have the feature 1 file. So this is the isolation that you get from branches, right? Now, what we have tried to achieve over here is that whatever code the developer 1 is creating, that will be isolated from the master branch, which has only the code which is production ready, or the code which is final, right? So now whatever R&D, or research and development that the developer 1 wants to do, he can do in his own branch, and his branch will not coincide with my branch, that is the master branch. And whatever, even if he is doing anything wrong, that will not impact the code which is there in master. That's the intent behind having branches in Git, right? So now when I check out on feature 1, I can see that I have the feature 1 code that this developer has written. And now what he will do is, since we have one more branch, which is basically the develop branch, You will wonder what is the use of this develop branch. Well, the use of this develop branch is that first, the develop branch is used to add all the features which have been developed onto this branch. And once we feel the features are ready, they are working well together, we basically merge it on the master. Now, to put it into more perspective, let's say the developer 2, he works on feature 2. So git checkout on feature 2. And now over here, he basically goes ahead and creates the feature 2 file, right? Hello world, this is feature 2 being added by developer 2, right? Let's say he does that. Now, developer 2 has added the feature over here in the feature 2 file. And what he'll do now is he will stage it, he will commit it, right? And now if I check the logs, you can see that on this feature 2 branch, there are just 2 commits, and the new commit is added feature 2. Now what I want to do is I want to see how feature 1 and feature 2 are working together, because it could happen whatever feature 2, the functions which feature 2 is using, it might coincide with feature 1, and that might lead to a bug in the website or the program that we are creating. Hence, to be very sure, I need one place where I can basically test out the main file, feature 1 file and feature 2 file together. And that's exactly what the developer or the develop branch basically serves the purpose for. So what I'll do is I'll just check out on develop. And you can see on develop, I just have the main file as of now. So first I'll merge feature 1, git merge feature 1. And then I'll merge git merge feature 2, right? So both is done. And now if I do an ls, you can see I have both feature 1 and feature 2 and the main file in which branch? Develop. And now in my main branch, I have all the feature 1, the feature 2, and the main file as well. Right? So this is a process that you follow when you have multiple developers in the team and whom you want to basically give the features to. This is again a standard set of process. Now what companies do is, or what organizations do is, they basically modify this as well to a certain extent to suit to their requirements. So that is always up to you. So there's no hard fast rule that it has to be used like this, right? It is up to you. For example, in some cases, people don't prefer to have a develop branch. Could be possible when you have a smaller team, right? But from my suggestion, the develop branch should always be there, right? In other cases, they add more branches over here as well, right? Which we probably will discuss about the scenarios in the next workflow, which is the Git flow workflow. Now, this is probably a complex workflow for a beginner to understand, but this is a very robust workflow to follow, right? Now, in this, it takes the qualities for the feature branch workflow, wherein you have the develop branch, you have the feature branches, but at the same time, there is one more branch which is there, which is called the release branch. Okay, now this is again serving a very important purpose over here. And at the same time, you also have something called as a hotfix branch. Okay, so this hotfix branch sometimes can also be added inside feature branching workflow if required. But let me tell you the purpose of this hotfix branch. So this hotfix branch serves the purpose where you probably have merged everything on the master, the code is looking good, but suddenly there is a very critical bug which has happened in the website. Now that bug has to be fixed immediately or it will impact business. So when there is a bug like that which has to be fixed immediately, obviously if you follow the process of first adding a feature branch, then merging it on the develop, reviewing it, and then merging it on the master, it will take a longer time. So what the developers usually do is, as a hack, they basically create a branch out of master. They fix the code directly on the hotfix branch, which basically is branched out of master. Once the code is fixed, they again merge directly it on the master so that the work can be done a lot faster. And that's what the hotfix branch means. And as the name suggests, hotfix also calls for something which is very immediate, right? And that is what the hotfix branch is all about. Talking more about the GitFlow workflows, I was talking about the robustness of this workflow and the fact that we have a new branch over here, which is a release branch. So what is the purpose of this release branch? So this release branch basically helps you to plan releases. So let's say you work for a company and your company has appointed an architect for you who will be handling for your team. And this architect says, you know what, for this month, let's plan out a set of 10 features and let's plan to finish it as soon as possible. So you plan out a set of 10 features, you put your thought into it, how the user experience is going to be, how everything is going to be. You basically consult the product team, they have given a go ahead. So everything is working good. So you decide on these 10 features. The date is 25th of this month when you have to basically do the release. And by 15th, you're done with all these features. From the tech team, all the 10 features are completed by 15th and the date of release on 25th. So what will happen in this scenario? Will you do a release on the 15th itself, or will you have to wait till 25th? So in ideal scenarios, you will actually have to wait because you will not be able to do it directly. So what you can do in this case is either you can just give your developer team an off for 10 days and you can tell them to enjoy because there's no work for 10 days now because the release is done and we cannot touch Git now. Because if we touch Git and if we add more comments, obviously then the new comments that we will be adding will also be going in the new release that we're going to make on the 25th. Why is that going to happen? Because let's say the release branch is not there, right? Let's say only the develop branch is there. So obviously when we have to test all the features together, we basically put all the features on the develop branch. Now let's say all the 10 features that we decided that will go on the 25th and they got completed on 15th, we tested them on the develop branch and everything used to work perfectly fine. So now if the next set of features which are decided for the next month's release are also worked on, they will also have to be merged on the develop because obviously if those features are done, they will have to be tested. And if that becomes a scenario, then on 25th, the moment I will merge the develop branch with the master, it will also merge the new features which are there on the develop branch. So to avoid that, to avoid putting the unnecessary commits or the commits which are not planned in the release, what we do is we create a new branch called release on which we only put the commits that are supposed to go on a certain date, the moment they are over, right? So let's say this is the commit wherein the features that we decided are complete, right? And it is ready to go on 25th. Today is 15th. So what we do is we basically tag this and we basically merge it on the release branch and we let it be there till the next 25th. And now what we do is, since this commit is now on the release branch, we can again work on the new features and we can start adding it to the develop branch, right? Now, this branch, since it's separate from release, the day when I have to make the release on the master, all I have to do is, this is an older commit which I did on the 15th. I will just merge it on the 25th to the master branch. And no matter how many more commits I have on the develop branch, it doesn't matter. The new features that I've added, these features will not go on the master. Only the features that I decided, the 10 features for the release, will go on the master. And this is the exact purpose of having the release branch. Okay, guys, so this is what a Git workflow is. Now, to give you more understanding to it, let me show you how it looks on the terminal. So I will just come out of this folder. Let's create a Git flow directory. Let's go inside this Git flow directory. Let's initialize Git repository, right? And now what I'll do is I'll basically go ahead and create a main file. Let's put something in this main file. Let's say hello world from main. This is what I entered over here. And now what I'll do is I will go ahead and stage it, commit it. And now I have the first commit on my GitHub, which is on the master, which is great. Now what I'll do is I'll basically go ahead and I will create some branches. So let's create the develop branch. I will not create the release branch as of yet. Let's create the feature branch. Let's create feature 2 branch. Let's say as an architect, I have planned that 2 features on Go will go on the 25th of this month. Today is the 20th, right? And the next set of features will go on the next release. That is the next 25th of the next month, which is December 25th. So what I do is I say, okay, so let's work on these 2 features. So I give my developers the work, and my developers basically check out their feature branches. Okay, and they say, okay, so I will create feature 1. This is feature 1. Let's save it and let's stage it. Let's commit it. Added feature 1. Right, this has been done. Now let's do the same for feature 2 as well. So git checkout. Let's say this developer 2 works on the feature 2 branch. Sudo nano feature 2 hello world to feature 2. Let's stage it, commit it. Right, this is done. And feature 2 also has been done. Now today is the 22nd, right? Now both the features are completed for the release, which has to go on 25th. So what I tell my developers is, let me test it out and just merge it on the master. So git checkout develop. And what they do is git merge feature 1, git merge feature 2, right? So this is done. Both the feature 1 and feature 2 are there on the develop branch. Now, today is 23rd, like I said. So now in that case, what has happened is feature 1, feature 2 are completed, but now my developers are empty, right? They don't have any work to do. So what I tell them is, you know what, go ahead and work on feature 3. So I give them one more branch from the master. So git branch feature 3, git branch feature 4. Let's say these are new set of features that I give them. And feature 3 is being worked on, right? So I create feature 3 and hello world to feature 3. Let's say this is created. And this is completed the next day itself. On 24th, this feature is done, right? Created feature 3. This feature is completed on 23rd. And now I want my manager to review it, right? So now what will happen, right? So today is 24th. The feature 3 is done. If we talk about the feature 3, the commit has been made to the feature 3 branch. If we come on to our develop branch, we have feature 1 and feature 2 added over here. Now on 25th, I will have to merge this develop branch onto the master. And when I do that, only feature 1 and feature 2 will be added. But if I merge feature 3 on the develop branch today to test it out, Tomorrow, when I will be merging develop branch and the master, the feature 3 will also go, which I absolutely do not want because feature 3 is not planned for the release of this month. So hence I need a place where I can save all this work and keep it separate. And this is exactly what we have the release branch for. So I will again just check out on the master, git branch release, right? And now I will just merge develop here, merge develop is merged over here. So now in my uh, okay, so we didn't go to release, but imagine this is the release branch. So the release branch has the feature 1 and feature 2 now. And now what I can do is I can just check out on my develop branch and I can merge feature 3 without any problems, because tomorrow now what I'll do is I can basically just go ahead and merge the release branch on the master, and that will do my job. Okay, so this basically helps us to isolate the releases separately, even if my develop branch goes forward in terms of the new features which has to be added before the date. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So guys, this were the some of the processes, some of the standard processes which you can basically implement as a DevOps engineer in your company based on the use case that your company wants to follow and get the work done. Now let's talk about a GitHub concept. So all we talked about right now was Git. We did not upload our code to a central repository, right? Now I'm pretty sure every one of you must understand that, because today we are understanding the process that is followed in Git. Now let's go ahead and understand what is forking in GitHub. So guys, forking in GitHub basically means that, let's say somebody else has a repository on GitHub. How can you go ahead and make contribution to that repository? So to put it into perspective, let's go ahead to my browser and let's search for some GitHub repository. So GitHub, let's say Kubernetes repository we search for. This is the Kubernetes repository which is there. So this is the open source repository for Kubernetes. This is where the Kubernetes as a project has been created. Now what I can do over here is I can fork this repository. Okay, what do I mean by forking? Let's say I want to make some changes to this open source project, or I want to contribute to this project. So how will I be able to work on it? So first what I'll have to do is I need to be able to edit this repository. So what I'll do is okay. So guys, I think the internet went a little doofy. Okay, so I was talking about forking. So let me again come back. So we were talking about this Kubernetes repository, right? So what I was trying to explain was, let's say I want to make changes to this Kubernetes repository. So how can I make those changes? So in order to make those changes, what I'll have to do is I will basically have to fork this repository. And once, what do I mean by forking? Forking basically means that this repository will be cloned to my GitHub account. Now, how does that work? So I click on fork. Now, this will be forked to this particular, this is my GitHub account, right? So it will be forked to this particular GitHub account. And now you can see that in my GitHub account, I have the Kubernetes code. So now what I can do is I can just go ahead and I can clone this repo. So this is just copied over here. So this link can be copied. I can come back to my terminal and I can basically go ahead. I can do a git clone of this Kubernetes repository. So now what will happen, this code that I've just copied will come into my local system. As you can see, it is being copied. And from here, I can make changes to the code which is there in Kubernetes. Kubernetes as a product. Now, once I make changes which I feel are necessary to this project, I can then go ahead and go to the main, the main repository, which is this repository. I can go to pull requests like this. And in this pull requests, I can now tell this that I have made some changes in my Kubernetes repository. And now I would like to suggest those changes in this open source project. Okay. So you can see over here, this is my repository. This is the repository that I have. And this is the repository which is there on the Kubernetes project. Okay. So whichever branch I make the changes to, I will just specify the changes over there. And then I can just click on create pull request. Now what this will do is basically this will send a notification out to all the people who are basically managing the Kubernetes project as an open source. They will review it, and if they find that my changes are going to help this particular code or this open source project, then they're going to merge it. Right now, how do the open source projects usually work is that you cannot just add any random change. You can only pick up the issues which are already mentioned in Kubernetes. So these are the issues that people have raised, and the creators or the moderators of the Kubernetes project, they have approved that yes, we basically we accept that this is basically a problem in Kubernetes right now. So what you can do is you can fix any of these issues and mention that in your pull request. So once the moderators will see, will start reviewing your pull request, they will see whether that particular issue is fixed or not. And if that is fixed, then they will merge your code onto the project. And this is how basically, open source projects are basically developed with time and they are improved. Okay. So guys, this is what, forking is. And talking about Git workflow versus GitHub workflow, this was what GitHub workflow is, right? So what is the process of working on GitHub? You basically fork the repository, you do the changes according to the issues mentioned on the repository, and then you basically send a pull request to that repository in order for your changes to get merged over there. So guys, this is all that we had planned for this session today. I hope this session was useful to you. And if it was, please hit the like button and also subscribe to this video, if to this channel if you haven't already. We will be coming up with more such cool videos in the future. Till then, have a great day ahead and goodbye.